Don't hurt him. I'll buy him, she said. Call him Savage all you want. Vertical bark cowboy love stories. The twin suns of Crimson Mesa were sinking low, burning the horizon in orange and red. Dust swirled around the edges of the floating auction platforms, giving the sky a hazy, almost dreamlike glow. Traders, mercenaries, and bounty hunters moved like shadows across the wide-open spaces, all eyeing the main platform where the next prize would appear. Jessa Thorne stood near the edge of one platform, her boots steady on the metal grating. She was not a typical trader. Her reputation wasn't built on wealth, or flashy gadgets, or even charm. It was built on getting the ungettable. And today her eyes were fixed on a man who had earned himself a legend across the outer belt. Reich Savage. The announcer's booming voice echoed across the platforms, carried by the wind and the strange hum of anti-gravity engines. Ladies and gentlemen, next up for bid, Savage. The one who tamed the AI beasts of Talon Sector. The outlaw who laughs at danger. Place your bids. Reich Savage stood alone on the platform, a rugged figure in a dusty coat and wide-brimmed hat that shadowed his sharp eyes. A faint hum pulsed from a small collar around his neck, blinking like a heartbeat. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just watched the crowd, calm but alert, as if he had already calculated every move they might make. The crowd stirred. Mercenaries whispered to each other. Tech traders tapped on their hollow screens, and bounty hunters adjusted the plasma rifles slung across their shoulders. This was not going to be an easy auction. Jess's heart beat faster. She didn't care about his fame or the money he could bring her. She simply whispered to herself, almost as if she were making a promise. Don't hurt him. I'll buy him. A rival trader, a burly man with metal plates embedded in his arms, noticed her focus. Who's that girl? He muttered to his companion. Looks like she's about to throw her credits away. She's bold, the companion said. Or foolish. Savage doesn't go to the highest bidder. He's different. She had no interest in the whispers of others. All that mattered was the man on the platform and the pulse of energy coming from his collar. Something about it didn't feel right. The auction began. The first bid came from a sharp-looking tech trader, tapping numbers on his hollow pad. 10,000 credits, the announcer declared. The next, a rugged bounty hunter, jumped to 15,000. The prices climbed fast, each bid a challenge, each hand raised a claim. Then Jessa stepped forward. Her voice was calm but strong, carrying over the noise of the crowd. 25,000 credits. A hush fell over the platform. No one had expected her to go this high, not this early. The burly man's jaw tightened. She can't be serious, he said. But she was. The bids continued, each higher than the last. Reich's eyes didn't move. He didn't flinch. He just stood there, waiting, watching, as though he were weighing the intentions of every person in the crowd. 30,000! A rival shouted. 40,000, Jessa countered. The announcer's voice rose with excitement. We have a new high bidder. 40,000 credits.
Do I hear 50?
No one responded. The crowd froze. No one wanted to risk it. Jess's hand hovered over the bid button again, steady as a rock. She pressed it. 50,000. You can't, he started, but the announcer cut him off. 50,000 credits. Sold to Jessa Thorne. The gavel banged. Reich's eyes finally moved. They flicked toward Jessa, sharp and alert, a mixture of suspicion and curiosity. He took a step forward. You bought me? His voice was low, careful. Jessa nodded, stepping closer. I did. Don't worry. No one's going to hurt you. Reich's jaw tightened. He had survived asteroid storms, rogue AI beasts, and outlaw gangs that made entire systems shake. And yet, this simple promise from a stranger made him pause. The energy pulse from his collar flickered, a small warning that someone else was watching. But Jessa didn't notice. It was a private war between him and the technology strapped around his neck. As she handed over the credits, a low hum began to fill the air. The crowd started whispering again, pointing at the collar. Reich flinched slightly. You shouldn't have done that, he said, a hint of warning in his tone. I don't care, Jessa said. I don't do things because they're safe. I do them because they're right. Only the wind carried the sound of distant engines and the faint crackle of electricity from hovering ships. Then the collar blinked faster. Soft pulse ran through Reich's body and his instincts flared. He stepped back, eyes narrowing. Someone else has plans for me, he said. Jessa frowned. Who? Reich didn't answer. He only looked at her, and for the first time there was something unspoken between them. Trust. A silent agreement that they would face whatever came next, together. The crowd began to disperse, disappointed by the sudden end of the auction. Jessa and Reich moved to her hover wagon, a hybrid of old-time Western design and modern frontier tech. The vehicle's engines hummed to life, glowing softly under the twin suns. Reich climbed in, cautious but alert. Jessa followed. "We need to get off this platform before anyone realizes I just made the deal of the century," she said. He nodded, fingers brushing the handle of his plasma blaster. "I'm not used to people protecting me," he admitted. "You will get used to it," Jessa said, starting the engines. "Because I'm not leaving your side." The hover wagon lifted into the sky, the dusty winds of Crimson Mesa swirling below them. Reich looked down at the fading auction platform, then back at Jessa. "You bought me for what reason?" "Because some things," Jessa replied, eyes fixed on the horizon, "are worth doing right, no matter what the risk." The twin suns dipped lower, painting the sky with streaks of gold and crimson. Somewhere in the distance, a small fleet of unknown ships shimmered faintly against the horizon. Reich's pulse quickened. The caller's hum had stopped, for now, but he knew the danger was not over. Jessa piloted the wagon into the open sky, her mind alert to every movement, every flicker of light in the distance. "We're not safe yet," she said. Reich's eyes met hers again, sharper now, more focused.
"Then I guess we ride together. For now."
And as the hover wagon soared across the twin suns, carrying them away from the platform and into the unknown, both knew that the adventure had only just begun. The outer belt was vast, lawless, and dangerous, and in its endless deserts and floating cities, legends were made, tested, and broken. But for now, in this quiet moment, they had found a strange, unexpected alliance. And in the lawless reaches of space, sometimes that was all that mattered. The stars stretched out like a river of diamonds in the endless black above them. Jessa Thorne gripped the controls of her hover wagon, eyes scanning every flicker of light in the distance. Crimson Mesa was behind them now, a fading orange smear on the horizon, but danger was not behind them. Reich Savage sat across from her, fingers brushing the handle of his plasma blaster. The collar on his neck had stopped pulsing, but only for now. "Whoever sent that energy pulse," he muttered. "They aren't just tracking me. They wanted to control me." Jessa didn't answer immediately. Her mind was busy running through possible escape routes and safe planets in the outer belt. "Then we make sure they don't," she said finally. "I don't like people controlling others. Not now. Not ever." Most people he had met wanted power, money, or fame. Jessa wanted something different. Safety, freedom, maybe even justice. Something he had not experienced for a long time. They traveled in silence for hours, the hum of the hover wagon filling the void. Every now and then, Reich would glance at the horizon, noting asteroid clusters and rogue space debris. "We can't just run forever," he said. "They will find us. That's why we need a plan. And I think I know a place we can hide, at least for a while." The planet Korath was on the edge of the outer belt, a desert world with shifting green sands and rocky canyons that could hide almost anything. Jessa guided the hover wagon through the thin atmosphere, dodging sharp rock spires and sudden gusts of wind that howled like wild beasts across the dunes. Reich's boots brushed the floor as he stepped out of the wagon, his gaze sweeping the horizon. "Looks quiet," he said. "Too quiet." "Quiet can be dangerous," Jessa replied, pulling a small scanner from her coat. "Especially on planets no one wants to settle." Not much, but enough for Jessa to understand a little of his past. "I grew up on the fringes," he said quietly. "No law, no rules, just survival. The AI beasts were my only challenge. Everyone called me savage. I didn't mind. Made life simpler." Jessa studied him. "And now?" "Now," he shrugged. "Now I have a choice. You bought me, and I don't know why. I don't know if I can trust you." "You will," she said firmly, "if you let me. I'm not here to own you, Reich. I'm here to make sure no one else does either." The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the canyon walls. Their campfire, a small plasma lantern, cast a warm glow on the green sands. Reich sharpened his blade quietly, while Jessa prepared a simple meal from rations they had brought. For the first time, they shared a moment of normalcy, a pause in the chaos that had followed them since the auction. But the color pulsed again, faintly at first, then stronger. Reich tensed immediately. "They're close," he muttered, rising to his feet. Jessa's hand went to her holster. "Close? How close? Too close, he said, eyes scanning the canyon mouth. Someone knows exactly where we are. And they brought backup. It didn't take long for the backup to arrive. A fleet of small, fast ships swooped down from the sky, engines glowing and weapons ready. Mercenaries? No, hunters. Spotted the glow of the lantern. They weren't after credits. They were after Rick. Jess's mind raced. The hover wagon was too large to take off in the narrow canyon, but the canyon walls had natural tunnels. She grabbed Reich's arm. Follow me. We can use the tunnels to outsmart them. Reich's grin was faint but sharp. Finally, something interesting. They ran through narrow passages, their steps echoing against the walls. The hunters followed, their ships circling above, scanning for heat and movement. Plasma shots lit the air, striking the canyon walls, sending showers of sparks and sand flying. Reich moved like a shadow, ducking behind rocks, deflecting plasma blasts with his blade, firing precise shots from his blaster. Jessa hacked a small drone she carried, sending it to distract the hunters' targeting systems. Sparks erupted as a plasma beam struck the drone, sending it spinning into the sand. The chase was tense, thrilling, and exhausting. Each corner they turned, each tunnel they ducked into, brought them closer to temporary safety, but also closer to exhaustion. Finally, they reached a hidden plateau, a natural formation high above the canyon floor. Jessa pulled out a small comm device. I think we can hide here for a while, she said. They'll need more than speed to catch us now. They won't stop, though. Whoever sent them will keep coming. That's why we need a plan, Jessa said. And I have an idea, but it will require trust. I'm not used to trusting people. You know that. I know, she said. But right now it's the only way to survive. And if we survive, maybe we can fight back. For hours they hid on the plateau, watching the canyon below. The hunter ships scanned, fired, and left, only to return later with renewed vigor. Each time, Jessa and Reich found new ways to evade them. Together they started to move as a single unit, her tech skills, his survival instincts, and their shared determination creating a rhythm that was almost unstoppable. By the time the twin suns set completely, painting the sky in shades of violet and black, they had established a temporary base in the plateau caves. Reich cleaned his weapons while Jessa worked on the drones. Silence fell between them, heavy but comforting. I never thought I'd meet someone who would fight like this for me, Reich admitted quietly. You're not just a savage, Jessa said, shaking her head. And I'm not going to let them make you one. Not now, not ever. Reich studied her face. And what if they keep coming? What if we can't stop them? Then we fight, Jessa said simply. Together. He had survived countless dangers, but the determination in Jessa's eyes gave him a strange sense of hope. Maybe, just maybe, he could trust someone again. The night grew colder. The stars above were bright, clear, and infinite. Jessa and Reich took turns keeping watch, listening to the wind and the distant hum of engines. Somewhere far away, the galaxy moved on, lawless and dangerous, but here, on this hidden plateau, they had found a fragile moment of safety. You know, Reich said after a long pause, if you hadn't bought me, I probably wouldn't have survived this week. Jessa smiled faintly. Maybe, but I did buy you, and now we get to see this through. No one else decides your fate, Reich. Not anymore. The collar on Reich's neck pulsed faintly once more, almost as if acknowledging her words. He touched it, feeling the hum, the potential, and the danger. Then let's make sure it stays that way. As they settled in for the night, both knew one truth. The outer belt was full of dangers, from bounty hunters to rogue AI, from mercenaries to corrupt traders. But for now they had each other, a fragile alliance forged in fire and trust. And sometimes, in the lawless stars, that was more important than anything else. The twin suns were gone, but the light of distant worlds shone bright above them, promising adventure, danger, and maybe even a chance for freedom. And for the first time in a long while, Reich Savage felt that freedom might actually be possible. The canyon of Korath was silent in the early morning light. Mist rolled along the jagged rocks, curling around the plateau like a ghostly blanket. Jessa Thorne and Reich Savage crouched near the edge, watching the horizon. The fleet of robed mech riders that had chased them last night had vanished into the green sands, but both knew it was only temporary. Reich's fingers brushed his blaster. They'll come back, and next time, they won't just chase. They'll trap us. Jessa adjusted the controls on a small drone, checking its battery and targeting systems. Then we make sure they never catch us, she said. Her voice was calm, but her eyes flicked constantly to the canyon mouth. "We have one chance to turn this around." Reich studied her for a long moment. He trusted her instincts, even if he didn't always understand them. "And what's your plan?" he asked. Jessa tapped her holopad, bringing up a map of the canyon system. "These canyons are old. They have natural traps, sandstorms, magnetic fields, unstable rock formations. We can use them. Draw the mechs into the right spot, disable their ships, and then we hit their base." Rick raised an eyebrow. "Their base? You mean we go after the people who sent them?" "Yes," Jessa said firmly. "We either end this now or we keep running forever. I vote for ending it." The sun rose higher, casting greenish shadows across the plateau. The wind carried the faint hum of engines. Jessa and Reich moved quickly, descending into the narrow tunnels that twisted and turned through the canyon. Each step had to be calculated. One wrong move, and the unstable rock formations could collapse, or the sandstorms below could sweep them away. Hours passed. They reached a natural choke point where the canyon walls narrowed dramatically. Jessa set up several small energy traps, pulses that would interfere with the mech riders' targeting systems and slow them down. Reich positioned himself at the edge, ready to strike. As if on cue, the first mech appeared on the horizon. Its metal frame gleamed in the morning light, plasma cannons glinting. One by one, the others followed, moving in a tight formation. "Now," Jessa whispered. She activated the traps. Pulses of energy shot out, interfering with the mech systems. Sparks flew as the first few machines faltered, their engines stuttering. Reich didn't wait. He leaped into action, firing precise shots from his blaster, targeting the joints and power cores of the mechs. The canyon erupted in chaos. Plasma beams struck rock walls, sending showers of sand and sparks into the air. The green sands shifted violently, creating natural barriers and traps that the mech riders hadn't anticipated. Reich moved like a shadow, blending his cowboy instincts with enhanced reflexes from the collar, though he fought to control its influence. Each shot, each dodge, was calculated. Jessa directed the drones to harass the mechs, sending false signals and creating confusion. It was exhausting, dangerous, and exhilarating. For the first time in days, Reich smiled, not because of victory, but because he wasn't running. He was fighting. Amid the battle, a sudden pulse from his collar flared violently. Reich stumbled, catching himself on a rock. "The collar!" he shouted over the roar of plasma and shifting sand. "It's communicating. It's showing me..." Jessa's eyes widened. "Showing you what?" "The AI, it's revealing the network. The people who sent them, they're not just hunters. They're part of a bigger plan. A plan to weaponize frontier outlaws, people like me, for control across the galaxy." Jess's jaw tightened. "Then we stop them. No one controls you. Not ever." Reich nodded, determination hardening his features. Together they moved deeper into the canyon, drawing the mech riders into traps, using the unstable sands and narrow passages to their advantage. Several mechs were disabled as they collided with walls or got stuck in magnetic fields. Others were forced to retreat temporarily, damaged but not destroyed. Hours passed. Both were tired, covered in dust and sweat, but neither stopped. Finally, they reached the inner canyon, where a natural cave system opened beneath a jagged cliff. Jessa set up a temporary base, using the cave's natural energy conduits to amplify her drones and traps. "We'll rest here," she said, her voice firm but gentle. "We need energy for what comes next." Reich leaned against a rock, catching his breath.
"What comes next?"
"The source," Jessa replied. "The mastermind who sent them. Whoever wants you controlled. We end this at the root." Reich studied her face. "You're serious? You don't even know if we can make it." "I do know we have to try," Jessa said. "We can't run forever. We either fight or we disappear like ghosts in the belt." "I vote for fighting." For the first time, Reich felt a sense of purpose beyond survival. "All right," he said. "Then we fight." The sun dipped low again, casting long shadows into the cave. Jessa and Reich prepared their equipment, checking weapons, drones, and blasters. Every detail mattered. The enemy was clever, well-equipped, and relentless. But so were they. As night fell, the canyon floor glowed faintly with the reflection of the twin moons. The cave echoed with the hum of drones, the soft crackle of Jessa's equipment, and the occasional distant rumble of shifting sand. Reich glanced at Jessa. "I don't know why you saved me, but I'm glad you did. Because someone had to. And because I believe even a so-called savage deserves a chance." He nodded, looking out over the canyon. Then let's make sure this chance counts. Hours later, the first signs of the enemy appeared again, a small scout ship hovering silently near the canyon mouth. Reich and Jessa moved into position. The battle was far from over. The Outer Belt was lawless, full of dangers, and the mastermind's plans were bigger than they had imagined. But for the first time in weeks, they weren't just running. They were ready to fight. And in the lawless stars, that could make all the difference. As the scout ship moved closer, Jessa activated the cave's energy traps. Sparks flew. Reich readied his blaster. The twin moons cast an eerie green light over them, illuminating the determination in both their eyes. "We've come this far," Jessa whispered. "No turning back now." Reich nodded, feeling the hum of his collar. The AI whispering, warning, guiding. For the first time, it felt like an ally rather than a threat. "Let's end this," he said. The scout ship exploded in a controlled burst of plasma, the enemy realizing too late they had underestimated the duo. Reich and Jessa exchanged a brief look, sharing a silent understanding. The main battle was coming, and when it did, they would be ready. And somewhere in the shadows, the mastermind watched, realizing that the so-called savage was far more than anyone had expected. The twin moons of Korath hung low, casting long, eerie shadows across the jagged canyon floor. The night air smelled of hot sand and ozone from distant plasma fire. Jessa Thorne adjusted the controls of her hover wagon as it hovered near the cave entrance. She could feel the tension radiating from Reich Savage beside her. Every muscle in his body was alert, every sense sharpened. "This is it," Jessa said softly. "We go in, take the fight to them, and end this. No one controls me. Not anymore. Let's make sure they understand that." The mastermind, known only as the Regent, had fortified his base deep within the canyon. From the hidden plateau, Jessa had studied its defenses. High walls made of energy-reinforced metal, patrol drones, and several mech units ready to deploy at a moment's notice. The plan was simple in theory, but dangerous in practice. They would draw the defenders into traps, disable their weapons, and strike at the Regent directly. As they descended into the canyon, the first patrol drones appeared, their engines glowing like angry fireflies. Reich fired first, precise shots hitting the drone's energy cores, causing sparks and smoke. Jessa's drones whirred to life, moving in tight formations to confuse the enemy sensors. Plasma blasts lit the canyon walls in brilliant bursts, sand and rock flying in every direction. "Keep moving," Jessa shouted. "The inner tunnels are just ahead." Reich ducked behind a rock, firing shots with a controlled rhythm. The collar around his neck hummed, guiding his instincts just enough to make his movements faster, sharper, almost inhuman. Yet he fought to keep control, refusing to let it dictate his actions. The first set of traps had done their job. Several mech units collided with unstable sand pits, their engines faltering. Others were forced into narrow tunnels where their bulk made them easy targets. The duo advanced, moving as one, Jessa's tech skills and Reich's combat prowess creating a rhythm almost unstoppable. Finally, they reached the inner sanctum of the base, a cavernous hall lit by flickering green lights. And there, standing tall and imposing, was the Regent. His armor gleamed like polished obsidian, energy weapons strapped across his chest. The AI network blinked behind him, glowing lines connecting the mech units in a web of control. "You're persistent," the Regent said, his voice cold, echoing in the cavern. "But persistence is nothing without obedience. You don't get to control me, or anyone else. That ends tonight." The Regent's laugh was low and metallic. Bold words for someone I could erase with a single command. Jessa activated the drones hidden around the room, sending them to disable the energy conduits powering the mech units. Sparks flew as systems shorted out, walls shivering under the pressure. Reich charged forward, his blaster firing with precision, targeting the Regent's weapons. The battle was intense. Plasma beams struck the walls, sending shards of metal and rock flying. Reich dodged with inhuman speed, a blur of motion as the collar hummed softly, guiding but not controlling. Jessa focused on the AI network, using her skills to override the control systems, freeing the remaining mech units from the Regent's command. "You can't win," the Regent growled, swinging a plasma baton that crackled with deadly energy. Reich ducked, rolling forward, and fired a shot that disabled the baton's power source. The energy sputtered and died. "Watch me," he said, his voice steady. Jessa had reached the main control console. Her fingers flew across the interface, rerouting the AI network to neutralize the Regent's defenses. Red lights blinked and alarms screamed briefly before the system shut down entirely. The mech units powered down, now just lifeless shells on the floor. The Regent stumbled, clearly not expecting the combination of strategy, skill, and courage. "This is impossible," he shouted, raising a concealed weapon. Reich moved like lightning, leaping across the floor. With a plasma lasso, an improvised tool of frontier ingenuity, he wrapped the regent, yanking the weapon from his hands. Sparks flew as the energy discharged harmlessly into the canyon floor. "You underestimated us," Jessa said, stepping forward. "Freedom isn't about fear, it's about choice." The regent snarled, but there was no strength left to fight. Reich's steady grip on the lasso and Jessa's control over the AI network left him powerless. The mastermind realized his empire of fear had crumbled. "Now," Jessa said, "let's finish this." Using the last of their drones, they captured the regent and secured him in a containment field. His plans to control frontier outlaws and expand his influence across the galaxy were over for now. Reich stepped back, breathing hard. The collar had stopped pulsing entirely. He ran a hand over it. "It's finally quiet." Jessa smiled faintly. "For now. But the galaxy is full of dangers. You're not out of the woods yet." Reich laughed softly, a sound that hadn't left him in weeks. "I can handle danger, especially when I'm not running from it." They left the inner sanctum, stepping out into the open canyon. The twin moons shone bright overhead, casting silver light across the jagged cliffs. Dust swirled in the gentle night wind, carrying the scent of hot sand in victory. Jessa looked at Reich. "You fought well today. More than anyone expected from a so-called savage." Rick shook his head. "Savage? Maybe they were wrong. Maybe I'm more than a name. Thanks to you, I'm starting to believe it." The two of them climbed back into the hover wagon, engines humming softly. They didn't need words. Both understood the significance of the night. They had survived, outsmarted the hunters, defeated the mastermind, and, most importantly, freed themselves from control. As they ascended into the starry sky, leaving the canyon behind, Reich looked at Jessa. "So, what now?" Jessa's eyes sparkled. "Now we ride. The outer belt is vast, lawless, and full of stories waiting to be written, and I think we've earned a place in one of them." Reich grinned, finally allowing himself a moment of true freedom. "Then let's make sure it's a good story." The twin suns of the next day began to rise over distant worlds, painting the black sky in hues of gold and violet. The galaxy stretched endlessly before them, full of danger, opportunity, and adventure. But for the first time, Reich Savage didn't feel like a fugitive. He felt like a cowboy again, free, capable, and alive. Jessa adjusted the controls, setting a course for the nearest spaceport. "We'll need supplies, repairs, and maybe some new tricks. But the hard part is over." Rick nodded, looking out over the vast expanse of stars. "The hard part may be over, but the adventure, that's just beginning." And so they rode together into the galaxy, a new legend in the making. The cowboy who wasn't just a savage, and the woman who had bought him freedom. Their story would ripple across worlds, a tale of courage, trust, and frontier justice. As the hover wagon disappeared into the distance, the twin moons cast a final silver glow over Korath, a silent witness to the victory of two souls who refused to be controlled, who fought for each other, and who had finally found freedom in the lawless stars.